O son of Marichi, because you are a great personality, you are equal towards all the demons and demigods who are born either from your body or from your mind, and who possess one or another of the three qualities, sattva-gun, rajagun, or tamogun. But although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, is equal towards all living entities, he is especially favorable to his devotees. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 29, the Lord says, Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshosti napriyaha ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mai tateshu chapyaham. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is equal toward everyone, he is especially inclined toward those who engage in his devotional service. The Lord says, Kuntiya pratijanihi name bhakta pranasyati. My dear son of Kunti, please declare that my devotee will never be vanquished. Elsewhere, Krishna also says, Yeyatam mam prapadyate, tangsdataiva bhajamyaham, mamuvart manuvartante, manusha partha sarvishaha. Actually, everyone is trying to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead in various ways. But according to their methods of approach, the Supreme Lord endows them with different benedictions. Thus, Aditi appealed to her husband by saying that since even the Supreme Controller favors his devotees, and since Indra, Kashyapa's devoted son, was in difficulty, Kashyapa should bestow his favor upon Indra. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharne Nirvishesha Chandivari Paschati Teshatarne Vanchikalpa Tubista Kripa Sindhabhyevita Patitam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. I was actually noting this morning that rather than looking at Krishna, I was looking at all the little children running around. I couldn't help but be attracted. They're so cute sometimes. And I was thinking how difficult it must be to be Mayavadi and to deny how kids are cute. Because after all, everything's one and you have to reject everything. Instead, I was thinking, well, at least if I'm attracted towards them, I can realize how attractive Krishna actually is, right? He just did a little guy with Madanga. He was great. Wow, he was fantastic. So, Krishna consciousness is such an amazing thing. This is talking about equality, and I was just noting this morning how I get very disturbed about in society how everyone's talking about equality all the time. We can quite easily see what rubbish it is actually. That although everyone's claiming they want or they're making equality, actually there's a lot of unfairness. You can't get rid of it. And Srila Prabhupada makes that point very clearly, that equality and fraternity are impossible on the material platform. It's a useless endeavor. It'll never ever be successful. And the wise person can see there's so many sort of loopholes. I was a little shocked to see the other day that because I feel a bit embarrassed talking about these things, but nowadays children, you're meant to call them young people, right? You have to call them young people, right? Which is kind of good in one sense. You're admitting they've got potential to be a person, right? And they call them young people. And then another time there was, not very nice these things, but one fellow had some inappropriate sexual activity with a girl of 15 years old, and they called her a child. They called her a child. Right? Now, obviously there are problems there, but at the same time, why use the word child at one point, right? And another point, use young person. They don't seem to make up their mind, right? We're all equal when it suits us, but at other times, right? So we use terms, we use terms to sort of emotively, right? When it's a 15-year-old, we say child, right? To really, not really a child. I'm not saying there's not a problem, but not a child. But we use terms in an emotive, prejudiced way, right? To try and get what we want. So it's mixed up out there. And of course, the thing we all know is that we're talking about equality and we're not being equal to the animals, right? And even equality with children, it's just a way of making them, we can equally rip them off and target them for consumerism, right? So I get very upset with all this talk about equality. It's basically an excuse for manipulation, sense gratification, whatever we want, right? I don't buy it, right? At the same time, actually it can't work, can it? We're all trying to be Krishna, right? In this world, we're all trying to be Krishna. Whether we're just saying, I want to be God, whether we're disguising it, whether we're Mr. Berlusconi, whether we're, some of these politicians are obviously trying to be powerful, or whether we're just a yogi or a Mayavadi, we're all trying to be God. There can't possibly be equality. How can there be many gods? At the same time, I think it's very beneficial when we see these things like equality, freedom, fairness. There is obviously more than a grain of truth in them. This material world is a perversion of the spiritual world. Urvan mulam, anda sakyam, ashvatam praha vavyavam. This is like a tree upside down. And the roots at the top and the branches are down. So whenever we reach for something in the illusion, it's not there. But a wise person thinks it is somewhere. It is somewhere. So therefore, whatever we see in this world, it's always a perverted reflection of something. So if we have that vision, we're actually seeing the truth everywhere. When we see an illusion, we think there must be the real thing somewhere. So if we see a falsity, we at the same time can see a truth. So every time we see a falsity, we can see a truth. Every time we see darkness, we can see light. Every time we see Maya, we can see Krishna. And that's what Krishna consciousness is about. So when we see this thing about equality, maybe we don't want to harp on too much about how we're not going to get equality materially. Better we say, yes, there's a seed of truth in that. How are we going to achieve it? And that is a very positive way of seeing this world. Seeing Krishna in everything. Because we have a tendency sometimes to deny, oh, that's material. But at least we can see the spiritual. When I see those little children playing, you go, oh, they're just children. Huh? But Krishna's there, right? They're a copy of Krishna. Of course, that's philosophically correct. Of course, we know that when we look up at the clouds in the sky, which is very common in this country, then we think, oh, the sun's covered by clouds. But actually, the clouds are here. The clouds are here. The clouds are covering us. They're not. The sun's millions of miles away. So, Krishna, Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Ki. So if Krishna is very kind, he's actually given us this illusion. The sun makes the clouds. The sun makes the clouds. And then the clouds cover the sun. So Krishna makes Maya, and those cover us. And we think those clouds are covering Krishna. We think Krishna is unfair. We think he's not equal. We think Krishna is covered by material qualities. And this is why the Mayavadis are so offensive. We think God's covered by material qualities, but the actual clouds aren't covering the sun. They're here. They're very close to us. The person we have to look at to change this world is ourselves. And Srila Prabhupada gives that example when the child wants to play. I don't know if kids do this anymore, but we used to do it. I remember doing this. We always used to, all the girls used to get their mum's shoes and put them on, right? These little girls going along with the big shoes and putting the clothes on, and they want to play cooking, and the mum has to give them some mud, and they can pretend to make chapatis, right? But the mum has to supply those things. Let's pretend we're grown up. Let's pretend we're grown up, but we're still dependent. We think, oh, I want to be independent. Look, I'm cooking, but as soon as something goes wrong, Mum, help. Similarly, in this world, we think we're very independent, and even as devotees, right, we're doing okay, and then suddenly when things go wrong, help, Krishna, right? We realize how dependent we are. And of course, Srila Prabhupada also gives that examples. We're like children on the beach. We're building sandcastles. Even the American empire is a sandcastle, right? How many billions of pounds are the Americans in debt, right? They just got permission to borrow more money, right? And they're all thinking everything's okay. But sandcastles, the sea will come in, the tide will come in and wash everything away. I remember doing it myself, building castles, having little toy soldiers and, being a hero, right? So we're all trying to be Krishna's the hero. We're trying to be Krishna. And at some point, Mum says, come on. Like with Mother Yashoda used to come to Krishna. Krishna wouldn't come back. He was a typical little boy, right? She used to call, come on, it's time for tea. And Krishna was playing, no chance, right? So in the same way, Krishna's saying, come in, come on, stop playing, come back to me. It's time to come home. But what does the child say? It's not fair. And that's what we cry. We cry, it's not fair, it's not fair. Why is this happening to me? But of course, Srila Prabhupada makes that point. The mother sometimes gives, I'm a twin, so I should know, sometimes my brother was, we're equal, more or less. So sometimes my mother would, I was ill, my mother would say, you've got to eat dry toast. That was my mother's recipe, just dry, English thing, dry toast. I don't know, we have dry chapatis in India or something. But if you've got poor tummy, it was just, you're eating just dry, and my brother's eating, cakes and things. It's not fair. But the mother, we know it's simple, so simple, but we miss it because we're emotionally attached, that the mother loves the child, whether she's giving the hard love or the other love, right? It's both love. That's the central point. We always have to look for central points because we get sort of caught up in the externals, just like that example. I love that example, of renunciation. That's another duality, the renunciation and sense gratification, right? We get caught up in renunciation or we get caught up in sense gratification, right? And you know that example that a lady, because I don't know whether it goes nowadays, but a lady in the Vedic culture, she would dress, when her husband's away, she would dress in rags. And when the husband's there, she'd dress very beautiful. So it's got nothing to do with dressing in rags. It's got nothing to do with dressing beautiful. It's to do with loving the husband, right? It's to do with love. Rags, if it has to, just beautifully have to. The central point brings everything together. Krishna brings contradictions together, right? So the mother's love, whether it's hard love or soft love, right? But we have that tendency to blame. We all know that you're playing chess and you lose at chess. You go, who made these rules? This is a useless game. Right? But I like it with chess because other games you have dice, so it's kind of chance, right? But with chess, you've got to make the rule. The rules are made, but there's no dice. It's not for chance. It's how you play, you get the result, and that's what life's like. It's how we, Some people say to me, "How's life treating you?" You know how I answer? I say, "How am I treating life?" Because Krishna, Krishna responds to us. Some psychologists and philosophers also say that the universe, they say the universe, we know the universe means Krishna ultimately, right? It responds to us, right? As we do something, it responds. It gives us something back. It's our responsibility. And Prabhupada says, of course, the human life alone is one of responsibility. Of course, when I'm teaching in schools, sometimes when I talk about this thing about karma and responsibility, I've had teachers react very, very much against that. They think it's a very cruel concept, but we have the idea of consequences. It's not so far removed, right? Again, when you see something that's, all knowledge is a partial truth. It can either be completely covered in tama, in the deepest darkness, or it can be the mode of ignorance, passion, where you're beginning to get a little light, or it can be goodness, where knowledge blossoms, right? So everything. What was my point? So even the idea of consequences. We had a school yesterday that came from Bishop Stortford Boys' School, and I was first of all, Dira and the other members of my team, before we have a school come, we always read out one of Srila Prabhupada's sayings, that calendar. On the day we read that out, and after we'd read it, I think I also read on the website what the values of this school were, because I thought they were also worthy of reading, right? We could say, they're just karmas, but the school had values like compassion, thoughtfulness. That was quite amazing, right? Quite amazing. So consequences, we have that idea of consequences in the West. Of course, there is ignorance because we only see one lifetime. Actually, devotees sometimes go to the other extreme. We say karma's about many lifetimes, so I'm not even concerned about looking at the consequences of what I do now. And we don't take responsibility for the things we could do now to change our lives now. because everything becomes karma, right? No, we have to act now. We have to be responsible now and understand the consequences which respectable and cultured people in this country have, and then take it further to other lifetimes. That's all. Take what's here and add to it. Add Krishna to everything. Make it pure. Of course, Krishna is above. Getting back to that, Krishna has that wonderful quality of being Advayam, one. Udasanavat, who says in Bhagavad Gita, he's like a high court judge. You see, people sometimes think equality is a sort of bland nothingness, like Mayavadi. But it's not. Being equal to people doesn't mean you treat everyone equal. It means you treat them appropriately. It's a misunderstanding. Everyone just gets stamped equal. You respond to people. And a cultured person does that. You respond to however someone treats you. There's certain people you think, oh, I'll say Haribol to them, but I won't get too close, right? There's other people you can get more intimate with. And we need that judgment. Or a high court judge, Srila Prabhupada gives the example. Okay, you can have £1 million damages. You can go down for 20 years. You can go to prison. But he's being equal. He's neutral. Because if he's not neutral, he's in trouble. And there's even people, we talk about equality, that is even a material quality. There's people who have to be police. There's people who have to be judges. There's even counsellors also. Counsellors know this. They have to put aside their own, or mentors, we have mentorship. Now we have to put aside our own prejudice when we're talking to someone. Otherwise we just impose and project all our ideas on them, right? How many times have you asked someone for advice and they just tell you, well, I did this. Yeah, but you're not me, right? We have to be appropriate. We have to apply things correctly to that person. Like a doctor has to give the right medicine to the individual. I mean, there are common things in Krishna consciousness, but it's an individual process as well. So Krishna, of course, we know, Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashyacha Duskami, kills or he benedicts his devotees. It's the same thing. Mother Yashoda, what about Putana? She got liberation as well, right? Whoever, Krishna's equal. He's not influenced, because he's not selfish. He's got nothing to gain. He's Atmarama. He's fully satisfied. That's why we need to be satisfied. I was thinking, just like when we serve prasadam, right? Either you've got to say, okay, I'm thinking of everyone else. I'm serving prasadam, right? Because it gets a bit bad if you're sort of thinking of prasadam and serving everyone else. Right? So either we say, I'm not, we're strong, and we say, let's wait till later and just control our senses. Or sometimes we used to do this, if there's a big function, sometimes the servers eat first. So either we have to be sacrificing, or we have to at least get our needs met. And we find if we don't get our needs met, certain needs we have to get met, we can't be balanced. We need to be balanced, solid in ourselves, so that then we can help others. Otherwise we can't help others. I remember times doing Sankirtan, and some, thinking, how can I help anyone? Because I'm not looking after myself, right? We have to be in a position where we feel satisfied so we can give to others. And Krishna's like that all the time, so we can respond appropriate. And so, of course, this material world is Dvaita. It's Icha Dvesha Samuttvena, Dvanda, Mohena. There's bound to be duality because there's a contradiction. There has to be a contradiction. There must be a contradiction. What's the initial contradiction? We're trying to be God, and we're not God. So that's the initial duality, the initial pretense. From that pretense comes all other pretenses. Just like anyone will know, if you've ever told a lie, or you try and hide something, you try and be dishonest, and that can be subtle sometimes, it can grow into a whole big thing. It can grow into world wars, right? We find, some people tell rumours, and before you know it, you get all these rumours going around everywhere, and it's based, on untruth. It's dishonest. For instance, to pass on a rumour is dishonest. To pass on a rumour, someone tells you something, and you just pass it on to someone. It's dishonest because you don't know where it came from. Check it out. It might be true, it might not. I'm not saying it's true, it's not. But find out. And if you don't know it's true, don't pass it on. That's a form of dishonesty. And you find, sometimes I've heard of things like that, rumours start, and it takes whole big meetings and people coming and GBCs coming. And it's all because someone just didn't communicate something right. There was some dishonesty there. So therefore, from dishonesty comes so much complication. The whole material world comes from that dishonesty and this duality in politics. And that's further duality. Duality, politics is all about duality, us and them. It's not our fault the Conservatives did it before us or the Labour, right? That's politics, not true. So this whole material world is based on this falseness, Dvaita. It's quite difficult, isn't it? Srila Prabhupada says we have to be able to rise above this duality. We have to tolerate martyrs, bhastas, we have to be determined. And we have to surrender to Krishna. I was just having toothache for many months, and I was always thinking, I'm going to fix it. Somehow I can't fix it. I have to that's Krishna's will. If he fixes it, great. If he doesn't, surrender. Right? And it's so, I think it was Socrates realized the same thing. And Socrates, of course, drank hemlock because he was sentenced to death for, for corrupting the youth, something many devotees have been charged with. He was preaching to the youth and corrupting them in Athens. He was giving them the truth, actually. So he was sentenced to death. He just drank hemlock because Prabhupada said he was somewhat self-realized. He was probably self-realized. But when they took the shackles off his leg, he was shackled with chains. When he took them off, he said, oh, very nice, pleasure. He said, see how close pain and pleasure are. See how close pain and pleasure are. When my toothache goes, I think, bliss. It's so close, pain and pleasure, the same, different sides of the coin. So therefore, Zodi has to tolerate. It's very difficult sometimes, but we have to come to that point of just surrendering to Krishna. And then we can become equal, equipoised, Srila Prabhupada says, equipoised. Happiness, distress. The word is sama, we know sama, dukkha, sukha. Dhiram, we're sober. Samadrik means someone who sees equal. Not just seeing these things, also people, seeing people equally. Samatha, what's the other word used? Samabuddhyo, I think, equal, or stira buddhi, equal intelligence. And that's the platform we have to come to, because we have to become, to go back to Brahman, Krishna is the supreme Brahman, we have to become Brahman. We have to become, if you want to go into a certain atmosphere, you have to, like I think Prabhupada said, if you want to go into water, you have to be a fish. You have to fit in. So we have to become Brahman. We have to become one. And Srila Prabhupada, how do we do that? There's many processes of doing it, but Lord Chaitanya's movement is really about preaching. That's my understanding. That's how we become purified. And Srila Prabhupada says in one place that if we go and we preach to people, irrespective of what they're like, irrespective to everybody, then Krishna will become pleased and will be delivered. That's our challenge to everybody we meet, and to see that. Sometimes we sort of make a distinction, and we're meant to, as second class, we're meant to come to this, if we can, to come to the second class. It's difficult. Come to the second class platform and make friends with devotees and preach to the innocent. We're meant to do that. But does that mean, we're friends with the devotees and they're the karmas? No, I would suggest here that the answer is given that Krishna is equal to everyone, but at the same time, he shows special mercy to his devotees. He's equal. Isn't it amazing? See, Krishna's no contradiction. He can be one thing. He can be equal to everybody. He's no prejudice, but there's a special affection. He gives the example. I give the example. I'm up in class. I must admit, I had a group of boys' school yesterday and an all-girls school, an independent girls' school. And they're so sweet, And I tend, when I've got a group of boys and girls, I tend to think, I'll preach more to the girls because they're so sweet, right? They're so cute, right? But I don't. I make sure when I'm doing activities, I pick the intelligent ones, I pick the not so intelligent ones. I'll pick a Hindu boy, a white boy. I don't want to be prejudiced. But one time there was a child in there that was visually impaired. So what did I do? I gave Hanuman. We have a big Hanuman. You've probably seen he's about 5 foot high, right? I gave the big fluffy Hanuman because she could. She wanted something tactile. Is there something wrong with being a little bit specially? Is there anything wrong with that? So is there anything wrong with Krishna being a little favourite towards his devotees? At the same time, he's equal. So I would suggest that we have that special relationship, intimate relationship with devotees. We have to make friends with each other. And I must admit, I came in here today and I thought, I feel so nervous when I come in here. I wish it was so friendly that I could just feel, right? Open to everyone. That's what I want it to be. And maybe it's my own problems. But friendly with all the devotees, but that doesn't mean that we're not friendly with the non-devotees. Whoever we meet, it's like Krishna. They're our brothers and sisters. They're our brothers and sisters. Everyone we meet, we can And it doesn't mean just preaching, it means connecting with them. It means listening to them, listening to their pain, listening to their dreams, connecting with them, stopping, being like Krishna, and not having any needs ourselves, or getting any, so we can actually be there for them. And that is such a wonderful thing just to connect with people and give them Krishna consciousness. I don't know about you, but it's the thing that keeps me going. It's my breath, it's my prashadam, just to see the effect of Krishna consciousness on people. We had a lady come the other day. She said, I came, my daughter came 2 years ago. She said, no, she's been telling me about it ever since, and she's saying, I must come. And I was thinking, okay, now you've come. What was it like? And she said, and it's wonderful, we're coming again. We're coming again, you know. So there's no more pleasure than preaching to people and just seeing that there's someone very, very vulnerable, and they might not have good qualities, but under there is someone, there is always that seed there. And it's not about, we treat everyone equally. At the same time, we treat them individually. We're like the doctor. We give them what they want, right? I had all these posh teachers, and then there was the bus driver. I was a bit embarrassed because the bus driver said, hey, you remember me, mate? My name's Daniel, you know what I mean? And then there's all these sort of posh people, you know. So I'm saying, how you doing, mate? All right. And then I'm sort of going to the posh people and sort of, how do you do? You know? So we have to be appropriate. But everyone was one family, right? You know, the bus driver was saying, it was great. It was fantastic. So how to be equal to everyone, but also be appropriate. Like Krishna is, he responds, yayatam mam prapajate. He responds individually with everyone. Which is amazing thought, actually. Isn't it amazing? Krishna actually becomes the servant as his devotee. Actually amazing. And we've got fantastic philosophy. Fantastic philosophy. Any questions, please?